Hi everyone, how's it going? I'm Bill Graham. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different, talking about the guitar. Specifically, how to play major triads in all inversions on all string sets, all up and down the neck. Let's get right to it. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is learn three basic shapes on the low E string. And these are going to be the shapes for a root position triad, a first inversion triad, or a triad starting from the third, and a second inversion triad, or a triad starting from the fifth. And these are going to be the basic shapes that we modify later on, basically to deal with the B string being a different interval from the rest of the strings, right? Because from the E string to the A string is a fourth, from A to D is a fourth, from D to G is a fourth, but then from G to B is a major third, and then from B to E is another fourth. So when we move these shapes up to the higher string sets that include the B string, we're going to have to modify these shapes to account for the fact that the note on the B string is a half step lower than you would expect it to be. Alright, so let's start off by playing all of these shapes at the same fret, just to get the shapes under your fingers. And if you've been playing guitar for a while, you're probably going to recognize all of these shapes as smaller fragments of chords you already know how to play. So this first one, which is a root position triad, or root, third, fifth, let's play it at the fifth fret, how about? So the fifth fret on the E string is an A. So if we want to play an A major chord in root position, the notes in an A major chord are A, which is the root, C sharp, which is the third, and E, which is the fifth. So let's play A on the E string, and then we're going to play C sharp on the A string at the fourth fret, so that's one fret behind the root on the next string. And then the fifth of the chord is E, and we're going to play that two more frets behind on the D string. So we've got A, which is the root, C sharp, which is the third, and E, which is the fifth. So the next shape that we need to learn is a first inversion triad. So if we're keeping this at the same fret, so that means starting from A again, what chord is A the third of? Well, it's the third of an F major chord, which F is the root, A is the third, and C is the fifth. But because this is in first inversion, we're going to arrange it third, fifth, root. So we're going to play the third, A, at that same fret, and then we're going to play the fifth, C, two frets behind on the next string, and then we're going to play the root, F, at that same fret on the next string. So A is the third, C is the fifth, F is the root. The third basic shape that we need to learn is a second inversion triad. So if we're staying at that same fret and starting from A, what chord is A the fifth of? Well, A is the fifth of D major. D major is D, which is the root, F sharp is the third, and A is the fifth. But because this is in second inversion, we're going to say fifth, root, third. So A is the fifth, and then D is the root. That's going to be at the same fret on the next string. And then F sharp is the third. That's going to be back a fret on the next string. So we've got A, which is the fifth, D, which is the root, and F sharp, which is the third. Okay, so now we've got our three basic shapes together. A root position triad, root, third, fifth, a first inversion triad, third, fifth, root, and a second inversion triad, fifth, root, third. Now let's play those inversions on the same chord. So let's say we're starting on an A chord, and we know that A is A, C sharp, and E. So we're going to have to play our root position shape starting at A. But let's say we want to go up to first inversion. Well, what's the third of an A chord? C sharp. So let's come up to C sharp and now play our first inversion shape, which here is going to be C sharp, E, A. And then if we want to go up to second inversion, what's the fifth of an A chord? E. So we're going to have to come all the way up to E and play our second inversion shape. E, A, C sharp. So one more time, root position at the 5th fret, first inversion at the 9th fret in this case, and then second inversion at the 12th fret in this case. Okay, so that first string set was the E string, the A string, and the D string. The next string set, we're going to move up one, and that's going to be the A string, D, and G. So we're still not involving the B string. And what that means is that we can play the exact same shapes that we played on the E string and just move them up to start on the A string. So let's start at the 5th fret of the A string. Now that's a D, right? So we could play our root position shape, or we could play our first inversion shape, which now we've got D on the bottom. What note or what chord is D the 3rd of? It's a B flat major chord. So we've got D, F, and B flat. That's the 3rd, the 5th, and the root. And then what chord is D the 5th of? That's a G major chord. So let's play our second inversion shape. And that's D, which is the 5th, G, which is the root, and B, which is the 3rd. Okay, and if we wanted to play all of the inversions of a D chord, then, okay, let's start with a root position chord at D. And then we're going to come up to the 3rd, which is F sharp. That's going to be, again, at the 9th fret, and play our first inversion shape. F sharp, A, D. 3rd, 5th, root. And then the 5th of this chord is A, right? So we've got to come up to A, again at the 12th fret, and play our second inversion shape. So that's 5th, root, 3rd. A, D, F sharp. One more time on that, root position, D, F sharp, A, root, 3rd, 5th, and then come up to F sharp, and we've got 3rd, 5th, root, that's F sharp, A, D, and then come up to the 5th, A, D, F sharp, 5th, root, 3rd, just those same 3 shapes. Now this next string set is D, G, and B. So we are involving the B string now. So we're going to have to change things up. And the note that lives on the B string, we're just going to have to slide 1 fret up. So now let's keep it consistent and stay at the 5th fret, which on the D string is a G. Right? So if we played our root position major chord that we've been playing so far, we're going to get, we've got root, 3rd, and flat 5. So we need to take that flat 5th and move it up a half step. So now this D string shape is going to look like, for a root position chord, the root, the 3rd is going to be back a fret on the next string, and then the 5th is going to be back just 1 fret on the next string instead of 2. Okay? For a first inversion chord, let's stay at G here. So what chord is G the 3rd of? It's going to be an E flat major chord. So if we played our regular first inversion shape that we've learned so far, that's going to give us G, B flat, and D. And we need an E flat instead of D, so we need to take that note and again move it up a fret. So now our first inversion shape, for starting on the D string, we've got the 3rd, and then the 5th is back 2 frets from there on the next string, and then the root, instead of being at the same fret, is up a fret from there. So we've got the 3rd, the 5th, and the root. And then for a second inversion chord, so what chord is G the 5th of? G is the 5th of a C chord, right? If we play the same second inversion shape we've been playing so far, we're going to get G, C, and E flat instead of E, which in a C chord we're looking for C, E, and G, or starting from the 5th, G, C, and E. So we're going to need to move that note up a fret again. So starting from the 5th, all 3 notes are going to be at the same fret. 5th, root, 3rd. In this case, that's G, C, and E. All right, so let's play those one more time. Starting from G, let's play a root position G chord. G is the root, B is the 3rd, D is the 5th. Let's play a first inversion E flat chord. G is the 3rd, B flat is the 5th, E flat is the root, and then we'll play our second inversion C chord. G is the 5th, C is the root, and E is the 3rd. And now we'll take our G chord up through its inversions. So we can start at the root, so G is the root, B is the 3rd, D is the 5th, and then we're going to move up to our first inversion shape, starting at a B. So now, B is the 3rd, D is the 5th, and G is the root, and then we're going to go up to our second inversion shape, starting at D. So, D is the 5th, G is the root, and B is the 3rd. Let's go over those one more time. Okay, and now lastly, we've got to go on to the top string set, which is starting from G. That's G, B, E. So now the B string, which was the top string of the last string set, now it's the middle string of this string set. So we've got to take those D string shapes and now modify the middle note up a fret. So that's going to look like this. Let's stay at that same 5th fret we've been at this whole time. So the 5th fret of the G string is a C chord. So if we played our D string major shape, that's not quite right. We get a C minor chord. We don't want that. So we got to move that B string note up a fret. So now a major chord in root position on the G string, we're going to play the root, and then the 3rd is on the next string at the same fret, and the 5th is on the next string 2 frets back. So C is the root, E is the 3rd, and G is the 5th. Next, let's look at our first inversion shape. So what chord is C the 3rd of? That's going to be an A flat chord. So if we played that D string shape that we just played, now, like I said, the middle note is 1 fret too low. So we've got to move that up, and we can refinger. So now we've got the 3rd, the 5th, and the root, which in this case is C is the 3rd, E flat is the 5th, and A flat is the root, because this is an A flat chord. And then if we stay at this same fret, we're staying at C. What chord is C the 5th of? That's going to be an F chord, right? So again, we're going to need to move the middle note of that D string shape up. So here's the D string second inversion shape, and let's move that B string note up a fret. And there we go. 5th, root, 3rd. And that's, in this case, C is the 5th, F is the root, and A is the 3rd. So let's play those all one after another. So a root position shape from C. C is the root, E is the 3rd, and G is the 5th. First inversion A flat, right? C is the 3rd, E flat is the 5th, and A flat is the root. And then second inversion F. C is the 5th, F is the root, and A is the 3rd. All right, and then now we've got to take that one chord through all of its inversions. So C chord in root position, C is the root, E is the 3rd, G is the 5th. Then we're going to move up to E and play our first inversion shape. So E is the 3rd, G is the 5th, C is the root. Then we're going to move up to G and play our second inversion shape. G is the 5th, C is the root, and E is the 3rd. One more time all in a row. Alright, so now that we know all of those shapes for all 3 inversions on all 4 string sets, Let's try taking one chord and moving it all the way up and down the neck. Let's take a C chord. So the lowest note in a C chord that we have available on the guitar, in a spot where we can fit one of these shapes, is the G on the low E string. So let's play a second inversion shape right there. G, C, E, 5th, root, 3rd. And then the next inversion is going to be root position. So this is G. Let's move up to C. We've got C, E, G, root, 3rd, 5th. And then the next chord tone is going to be the 3rd. So that's E. Let's play our first inversion shape, E, G, C, or 3rd, 5th, root. And then let's see if I can reach it on this guitar. We could go up to the 5th and play that same shape an octave higher than we did the first time. 5th, root, 3rd, G, C, E. All right. How about on the next string? The lowest note we have available is C, which is the root. So we can just play our root position shape. And we're going to have to cheat a little bit and use an open string, but that's okay. We got to play the open G string. Not a problem. So there's our root position shape, root, 3rd, 5th, C, E, G. Now we're going to move up to the first inversion. So that's E. We're going to play E, G, C, 3rd, 5th, root. And then we're going to move that up to the 5th, G, play our second inversion shape, G, C, E, 5th, root, 3rd. And then we ought to be able to reach the octave of the root position. So C, E, G, root, 3rd, 5th. Great. On the next string, the lowest note we have available to play one of these chord shapes is E, which is the 3rd. And again, we're going to have to cheat and use the open G string, but again, not a problem. So E, G, C, 3rd, 5th, root. The next chord tone on the D string is G, the 5th. So let's play our D string shape for playing a second inversion chord. We've got the 5th, the root, and the 3rd. G, C, E. All right? And then the next chord tone is going to be C, the root. So let's play our D string root position shape. C, E, G, root, 3rd, 5th. And then we'll reach up and play our first inversion shape one more time at E. E, G, C, 3rd, 5th, root. Okay? And then our last string set is going to be starting from the G string, right? And here we can play G. We're going to cheat and use two open strings. We're going to say G, C, open E, 5th, root, 3rd. Play that second inversion shape. And then we'll come up to the root and play our root position shape, C, E, G, root, 3rd, 5th. And then the next chord tone is the 3rd, E, so we'll play our first inversion shape, E, G, C, 3rd, 5th, root. And then finally we can come up and play an octave above where we started and play G, C, E, our second inversion shape, 5th, root, 3rd. Okay, let's try playing these C chords up one string set and then down the next. Repeat that, up the next string set, and then back down, and then we'll reverse that. Go back up the top string set, come down from the D string, up the A string, and down the E string. Okay, so we're going to play from the 5th, from the root, from the 3rd, from the 5th again, and then jump up to the next string set, play from the root, and then from the 5th, and then down to the 3rd, and then down to the root. Okay, next string set from the 3rd, from the 5th, from the root, from the 3rd again, and then the next string set from the 5th, from the 3rd, from the root, and then back down to the 5th. And then come back up to the root, to the 3rd, to the 5th, next string set from the 3rd, from the root, from the 5th, from the 3rd, next string set from the root, from the 3rd, from the 5th, and from the root, and then finally from the 5th, from the 3rd, from the root, and from the 5th. Alright, so now that we've got all that together, you got to practice that in all 12 keys for all 12 major chords. I recommend working on that going backwards through the circle of fifths. So that's playing in descending fifths, starting on C, and then going to F, and then going to B flat, and then E flat, etc. I've got a video about the circle of fifths. I'll leave a link for that in the description. As you play all of these inversions, saying the note names out loud as you play them is a really good practice for reinforcing the note names on the neck. And likewise, saying the chord tones, so saying the root, the 3rd, and the 5th as you play those is really good for reinforcing those sounds if you don't really have them in your ear yet. That's probably enough to work on for right now. Next time we're going to take a look at how to connect these shapes we worked on today. I hope this video made it a little easier for you to find these inversions up and down the neck. Do you have another way you prefer to practice inversions on the guitar? Let me know in the comments below. Also let me know if you're interested in me making more guitar content, or if you have any specific guitar questions. Alright, so now that you know how to find these chords all the way up and down the neck, you're ready to start working out of my book, Chord Tone Improvisation, a practical method for playing on jazz standards, Volume 1. Approaching major and minor triads. And this just shows you a bunch of different ways of getting into the chord tones without thinking about any fancy scales, just surrounding the chord tones with 1, 2, and 3 note approaches. I'm going to leave a link in the description for a video I did about that also. And I'm also going to leave a link in the description for the book. You can buy it on Amazon. You can also buy a PDF on my website. If you're interested in taking some Skype lessons, send me an email at billgrahammusic@gmail.com. I'll leave a link for that in the description. If you like what I'm doing on the channel and you'd like to send me a donation, you can do that via PayPal at the same email address. Thanks so much for watching. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, take it easy.